This video is going to describe how to back up your system. The only thing you really need to back up as far as Carousel is concerned is the database. There are two different databases that Carousel supports, and there are slightly different ways to back them up. We're going to start off backing up an Access database. The vast majority of my clients use the Access database. You'll notice that on the splash screen there's a big button that says Backup. Strangely enough, this is the way you can get into the backup program. Backups can be done to any of a number of different devices. For instance, you can do it to your local disk, which doesn't make a lot of sense, to some other disk on your system, which doesn't make a lot of sense, to a removable drive of some sort, like a thumb drive, which makes a lot of sense, or to some network drive. The reason you don't want to use something that's already on your computer is, what if the computer gets stolen or breaks or gets ransomwared? Then the backup will get corrupted, stolen, or whatever at the same time. You also don't want to use an external disk drive that's attached to the system all the time, because same reason. If someone steals the computer, they're probably going to steal the backup drive. If ransomware attacks your computer, it's going to attack the backup drive. The backups can be done anywhere. The database is on the server, wherever that is. So if you are running the backup from one of your workstations and the result is going to be to one of your workstations, then that's just fine. You'll notice in the first two items above that it's the C and D drives of your computer system. In this case, the D drive is your CD-ROM drive. You could make a backup to a CD-ROM, but that'd be expensive. If it goes to the C drive using that radio selection, it will go to the root, that is C:/. That's not always a good idea. Likewise, if you select the removable drive, it will go to the root of that, but that's usually not a bad problem. Down here on the bottom, you'll see on the left, Backup Media Name Handling. The default is to change its name. The other selection is to replace the existing file that would be there with the same name. If you use the default, if there's an existing file on your backup media, it'll change the name to have a timestamp in it, and then it'll create a new file. That way, on your backup medium, you can have dozens of previous backups, so that if you needed to go back to a backup and the most recent one is somehow screwed up, maybe the next one or the next one back will still work. The button to the right says Run the Backup. Here is what the files on my backup medium, which is a thumb drive, looks like right at the moment. You'll notice right around here there's no obvious backup file. I'm now going to run the backup by clicking this button. It's copying, and it's finished. I can then exit from the program. You can now see that there's a new file, uc2000.mdb. That is the database from this computer. That's really all you need to back up for a Carousel system. Let's just go and run the backup one more time. Click the button, copying, finished. And now you'll see there's two UC2000 files. The bottom one, you'll notice, has a timestamp on it. That is the file we created just a minute ago. The next one up, uc2000.mdb, is the file that we just created just this minute. So if you keep doing this, it'll keep creating new files and renaming the old files with their timestamps. If for some reason you want to save the backup someplace else, not in the root, let's say C:temp, I'm going to select that, and I'm going to save it. So now I'm going to exit from the program and restart it, and now run the backup. Finished. You'll notice we have the same two files on our backup medium that we were using a minute ago. But if I go to the C:temp file, we now have a UC2000 backup there. That will continue to be used as long as this radio button is selected. If you want to go back to the flash drive, then just select Drive E. SQL Server is Microsoft's enterprise database. It is much more sophisticated than the Access database that most of us use, but it's also much more complicated. You can't just grab a file from the SQL Server database as you can with Access. Access is in all one file. SQL Server is in many files and they are highly protected. So you must first create a SQL Server backup using SQL Server. That does create a single file that you can then copy somewhere and back it up and later restore. SQL Server requires a slightly different way to do the backup. You'll see when you are on a SQL Server system, a red box appears over the backup icon. When you click the red box, you then get a special SQL Server backup screen. Click the backup button, and in a short time you'll see some text on the screen finishing with backup finished. At that point you can exit from that program. That kicks you back to the splash screen, and the backup icon does not have the red button. So you click the backup icon and you run that normally, but what it will do is it will copy the backup made by SQL Server instead of the Access database.